Welcome back to the Lifestyle Lifter Show. And today I'm going to be describing some pre-vacation hacks to get your body beach ready and look your best for summer. As we know, summer is just around the corner. And during summertime, we like to go to the beach. We like to wear shorts, we like to wear swimwear, we like to wear t-shirts, we like to go out in short sleeve shirts, etc., etc. So we all want to look our best during summer. And this applies to you if you are going on holidays. Maybe you're going to Spain or Portugal or further afield, or maybe you're just going on a staycation and hopefully you're praying that the weather will be good. Regardless, we all want to look our best during the summer, which is why we're going to be talking today about some pre-vacation hacks that you can actually use to get your body beach ready for your big event, before your big holiday, whenever that might be. So let's dive in, guys. And before I actually give away the step-by-step strategy, first thing I want to talk about is losing weight versus losing body fat, because ideally, what you want to be focusing on particularly is losing body fat. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't be targeting weight loss, but losing weight and losing body fat are two very, very different things. And the reason I want to start out with this is because it can sometimes be a bit disheartening if you put all your value, if you put all your self-worth, if you measure all your progress on the number on the scale. So that's why I just want to caveat by saying it's important that you should be focusing on not only losing weight, if that is a goal of yours and you have some weight to lose, but also dropping body fat, because it's not uncommon for a lot of my clients to go through my Peak Performance Body Transformation Academy and not lose a lot of weight, yet you can look very, very differently. So firstly, what is the difference between losing weight and losing body fat? So your body fat percentage, that is the ratio of muscle to fat that your body has. How much of me is useful muscle that I want to hold on to, and how much of me is useless fat I want to get rid of? Okay, so it's the ratio of muscle to fat that you have. Whereas, as we know, weight, it's just the number on the scale. All right, it is just a number on the scale. Now, a kilo of muscle and a kilogram of fat, they both weigh the exact same. Okay, a kilogram at the end of the day, it still is a kilogram. However, they look very, very differently. So it's just important to understand there is a big difference between losing weight and losing body fat. Okay, now I'm not saying losing weight isn't important, that the scales doesn't completely matter. I mean, I don't understand why some people, they weigh out their food, but yet they don't weigh themselves. So it definitely is important to weigh yourself and use that as one method of tracking your progress. But what I'm saying is, for everyone listening, the Lifestyle Lifters, it shouldn't just be your only method. That's what I'm saying. So how else can you track your progress? Yes, you can use your weight. Definitely have a start point. So weigh yourself. You know, if you actually are serious about this, do weigh yourself and be aware of your start point, and weigh yourself then consistently. You know, some people like to do it every week. Other people like to do it every day. And I actually did change my mind on this. Like initially when I heard one of my online fitness coaches, he was kind of saying that he gets his clients to actually weigh themselves every single day. And I kind of thought, why would you do that? But the more he explained it, the more I actually understand why maybe that's not the worst idea, because if we just weigh ourselves in frequently, say like every fortnight or every 4 weeks, and if you put all your self-worth, as I was saying, into that number in the scale, that can make or break your day. But if you weigh yourself every single day, you'll actually have a better understanding of, you know, how your weight can fluctuate depending on when you last ate, when you last used the bathroom. You know, if you're a girl, like the time of the month, all of these factors play in. But regardless, anyways, the first thing I would say is definitely weigh yourself and do it at the same time, in the same location, at the same place, whenever you do that. So I like to weigh myself every week, usually a Saturday morning. I do it fasted, and that way then I take a picture, I upload it on MyFitnessPal, because on MyFitnessPal you can actually measure your progress, and then I just compare myself to who I was 12 weeks ago, 6 months ago, Okay, so definitely use weight as a measurement of progress, but it shouldn't be your only one. And this brings me on to other methods of progress that we can be actually measuring. So I just mentioned there photos. I mean, photos, I absolutely love photos. They're a great non-standardized way of just measuring your progress. If there is one regret I have, it's not taking more progress pictures when I started out my journey. I do have one when I was maybe 2 or 3 years in, but I really, really wish, like it's a big regret. If only I could go back and just take more pictures so I could actually see my start point. So definitely take some progress pictures, and this is just a great way for you to reflect and look back and compare your before and afters, 4 weeks in, 8 weeks in, 12 weeks in, whatever it might be. And then other ways you can actually measure your progress. So this, some standardized methods include like tape measurements, which are quite beneficial. If you have like a calipers at home, they can be good. Now, only thing with calipers is like there's a good lot of room for error. There is quite a lot of room for error, but again, they might be beneficial. And of course, like a DEXA scan, if you really want to go down like and invest in it, that could be something you could look into. But regardless, before we actually talk about some pre-vacation hacks to get your body beach ready, just be aware, understand that there is a difference between losing weight and losing body fat. Okay, so what we're going to be talking about now is how we can actually drop body fat, how we can get our bodies beach ready and look our best for summertime. So the first thing I would say is give yourself enough time. Give yourself enough time. Don't wait until last minute, until you're a week before, and then you just go on like a juice diet, or 4 weeks before and you do keto. Like unsustainable methods yield unsustainable results. So I would say give yourself enough time. And how much time? I mean, you should be seeing results inside 12 weeks, but depending on your start point, maybe 8 weeks is enough, but I'd say 12 weeks for sure. And if you have more than 12 weeks, well, bloody start today. Don't wait until you're 12 weeks out before you start. If you have 16 weeks to attack it, you can look even better because you'd have an additional 4 weeks. So give yourself enough time so that you're not implementing some unsustainable methods of dieting in order to look your best. Okay, so how do we actually go about dropping body fat? So the first thing is you want to be in a calorie deficit. Okay, so a calorie deficit is when you're taking in less energy than you're using. So for example, your maintenance level of calories are 2,000, which means if you want to maintain your current body weight, your current body fat percentage, you're going to eat 2,000 calories. But because we want to drop a bit of body fat, because we want to look a bit leaner, okay, we need to be in a calorie deficit. So a 10% calorie deficit would be you subtract 10% from your maintenance calories. So 2,000 minus 200, that'd be 1,800 calories. A 20% calorie deficit would be 1,600 calories. So I would recommend a sustainable deficit. So a 10 to 20%, I think it's a nice range. Anything in excess of that, if you go like a real extreme calorie deficit, you will get results. I mean, yeah, you know, anyone's going to lose weight on 1,000 calories or 800 calories if you want to go really extreme. But the question is, how long can you actually sustain that? And if you give yourself enough time, there is absolutely no need to go the restrictive route and completely go down to like a real low number. So I'd be saying, a 10 to 20% calorie deficit, because I've been there in the past. And what often happens is if you are too restrictive, that can lead to binge eating. I mean, I spoke about this before of being really and super strict with my diet. But then as a result, I just got fed up about 2 weeks in. I'd be able to stick to it for about 2 weeks. Then I got fed up. And we all know what my go-to food is. Whenever I used to go on a binge, and that'd be granola. And for anyone who knows the brand, it's the Kellogg's brand. I still know it off. It's the chocolate flavored one. And in a 500 gram package, there's like 2,200 calories. And I'd be easily able to put that away if I was in the mood for it. So look, I've stopped binge eating, thankfully. And that was about a year or two ago. But I would be saying, don't Don't go down the route of binge eating. And that often stems from unsustainable methods. So a sustainable calorie deficit, 10 to 20% is enough. Now, what I actually like to do as well is, suppose I'm like 12 weeks out, 12 weeks out, and my calories were at, let's just say your calories are at like 2,500. What I like to do is reduce my calories by about 50 and up to 100 a week. So essentially, every week my meals wouldn't really change. I'd be eating the exact same food, just the portion size would reduce slightly. So that's a nice way to actually get yourself into a sustainable deficit, is just to reduce your portion, or reduce your calories, should I say, by about 50 to 100 per week. So for example, maybe you were having 80 grams of oats in your porridge in the morning, you reduce that to 70. You reduce that to 60. Or maybe you had 300 grams of sweet potatoes, you reduce that to 200 grams. You're still having your sweet potato, your oats, whatever it might be, you're just eating a bit less, okay? So we're in a 10 to 20% moderate calorie deficit. Now, I like to give my clients a calorie range versus a set target. And what I mean by calorie range is, okay, so we want to be averaging, let's just use an example, we want to be averaging 2,300. But I'd give a range of 2,200 to 2,400 instead of saying we got to eat 2,300. And the reason I like a range is, you know, some days, let's say after a hard leg session, you might need those extra 100 or 200 calories. But then on another day, maybe a lighter day, you didn't train as hard, you know, 2,200 might be enough. So I think giving yourself a calorie range as opposed to a set target, it's a good way, just mentally more so than anything else, that you're giving yourself a bit of flexibility. You're not beating yourself up if you go over it. And the ironic thing is, by having this flexibility, you're probably more likely to, again, going back to the sustainability element, being able to sustain this, because you know that you have that bit of flexibility on a daily basis, provided we do not go over, we do not overspend at the end of the week. Think of your calories as a bank account, okay? You know, if you get paid on Friday and you can just, you know, use all your hard-earned money and spend it on that day, or you can balance it out over the week. And provided we do not go into debt and we don't overspend, it's totally fine. Where on some days your calories are a little higher and other days they're a little lower, provided at the end of the week we're in that deficit. Okay, so how do you actually know then if you are in a calorie deficit? So this brings me on to tracking. And should you track your calories or not? Everyone is different, but I think definitely if you've never done it before, this is like nutrition education 101. I definitely think it can be beneficial. And the reason I say it can be beneficial is because you might be surprised how many calories are in certain foods that are branded as healthy. When I was in college, I used to think that drinking Muju and having chocolate peanuts, you know, those ones you get in like in your local petrol store, I forget, Natural Food brand, I think they're called. And I used to drink 750 ml Muju and have a full packet of chocolate peanuts without really knowing that I was probably putting away somewhere in the region of 1,000 to 1,200 calories. Now, I thought these foods were healthy because peanuts are good for you, right? And chocolate milk and protein milk, that's good for you. But again, I hadn't the knowledge because I hadn't tracked my calories then. So I definitely do think it is beneficial to track your calories because, again, what can't be measured doesn't get managed. And if you are not assessing, you were just guessing. Now, if you've got to a point where you've tracked your calories before and you're pretty aware of your portion sizes and you've kind of built up the right to kind of not track, fair enough. But I think everyone, if you've never done it before, it is a good idea to track. And then, you know, this is what I call nutrition mastery. And a lot of my clients, after tracking for, we'll say, a couple of weeks, they actually get to the point where they're able to continue to lose weight without having to track their calories. But that is because they tracked them in the beginning, they built up the knowledge, and then they didn't have to rely on apps like MyFitnessPal to actually to see if they were in a deficit or not. But definitely, I would say, just to finish off on this topic, track if you've never done it before. And if you are really serious about it and you're not seeing results, it's always great to be able to look at your calories and say, okay, well, you know what, my diet wasn't on point this week. And that might be the result of why my progress pictures didn't change too much. Okay, so the more data you have, the more you'll be able to change things up down the line if needs be. Okay, so I hope you're with me so far. So the first thing we need to do if we want to get ourselves beach body ready for our holiday is to actually be in a calorie deficit. Now, point number 2 then, this is progressive strength training. So obviously it's important that we strength train every single week. How many times a week? That's going to be completely dependent on you, your lifestyle, your schedule. I mean, optimally, if we can get in about 3 to 4 times, 4 times preferably, that'd be really good. But again, depending on where you're at with your lifestyle, with whatever is happening in your life at the moment, maybe it's a busy period with work or with your family, three might just be manageable for you. But whatever number you pick, I would say pick a number you are 90% confident that you can actually hit. There's no point saying, I'm going to train 5 days a week, if you're about 60% certain that you actually can do that. Because even if you do 4 sessions, which is great, you've done 4 out of 5 sessions. And that 4 out of 5, that can take away your confidence. And we want to build our confidence on this journey. Okay, so pick and commit to a number of, a set amount of training sessions that you can stick to with 90% confidence. Okay, now, once you've decided on the number, then it is time to decide, do we have a plan to follow, or are we just going to do random workouts? And I've been there before. I mean, where you just go on Instagram. I used to be that guy, you know, before I really got into it. You go on YouTube or Instagram, you'd see some fancy exercise, and that was your workout for that day. And then the same day, the following week, you went on and you moved on to the next fancy exercise. And I mean, how are you meant to know if it's actually working or not, if you're trying something different every single week? So have a plan to follow. That is important. Now, your plan, it should, as I said, progressive strength training. It should emphasize progressive overload, which means you're doing a bit more every single week, or you're making progress over your training block. That's important. If you're not making progress over a 4 to 6 week period, for the most part, I'm not speaking in absolutes now, maybe there's something off with your training. So how can you actually progress your training? I'm not going to go into like the best workout splits, whether you're doing upper and lower, whether you're doing full body, whether you're doing push-pull legs. There's a lot of different methods out there, but how can you actually progress your current training program? So there are a few ways. First way is you can add weight to the bar. So last week you were deadlifting 100 kilos and you did 8 clean reps. Well, this week you might go for 105 or even 110 if you're pushing. So we can add more weight. Now, it's not always possible to add more weight, but the good thing is we can do more reps. So last week we did 100 kilos on the deadlift for 8 reps. This week we're going to go for 8 to 10 reps. And even if you don't hit your 10 reps, remember 8 plus 2 still equals 10. All the reps add up. Or another way you can actually progress, you can add more sets. So last week I did 4 sets of 8 at 100. This week I'm going to do 5 sets of 8. I got an extra 8 reps in, I got an extra set in, even though I didn't add more weight. And then there's other ways too. You can reduce your rest period. So maybe you were gassed after those 8 reps in the deadlift and you needed a 3-minute rest. But then this week, you know what, I'm feeling quite good and I've only rested 2 minutes. Let's go again. So these are all different ways you can actually overload your training, but there should be some element of overload. What you've done in the first week, you should be able to look back come week 4, week 5, week 6, depending on how long your program is, and you should be able to see progress. Okay. And also refining or improving your technique. That's another way you can actually progress. Now, how do you actually measure your progress? That's why I think it's really important that you actually track your workouts. You have some form of a training log. Because if you're just constantly going in and you can't remember what weight you were using last week, number one, like, it's actually going to cost you time in the gym. You're going to be spending longer wondering what you were doing. And number two, again, you won't have any data to compare it against to see if you're actually progressing or not. So track your workout. A pen and paper, there's nothing wrong with that. I like to do mine on an Excel sheet. And that way I'm able to see my lifts from years ago. And I'm able to see, okay, like I've added an extra 5 kilos to my deadlift over a certain period of time. But whatever way, I would say track your lifts, just like I'd say track your calories. Now, my own form of training, I'm all into performance, but I also like to touch the aesthetics. So I really like, and this is kind of the way I program too, I really like emphasizing some power work. Okay, like some form of speed work, whether that is plyo push-ups or med ball slams or some box jumps or something along those lines, something explosive, something quick. I also love emphasizing strength work, actually seeing myself get stronger. So that's where I'm going to be like looking at my big compound lifts, maybe a deadlift, and staying within that like 3 to 5 rep range. Sometimes I go higher, sometimes I go up to 8 or 10, but I do like emphasizing strength work. And then, you know, like everyone, there's nothing wrong with adding the occasional pump. So that might be banging out a set of bicep curls towards the end, or doing like a drop set on a dumbbell chest press. I like to incorporate all those methods. So some power work, some strength work, and a bit of hypertrophy, muscle building work. And then some days too, conditioning. Okay. Now, so I hope you're with me so far. We have point number 1, be in a moderate calorie deficit. Number 2, progressive strength training every single week. Now, number 3 then, back to food. And this is a little hack. When you are in a calorie deficit, your goal should be to eat as much food as possible. I'll repeat. When you're in a calorie deficit, your goal should be to eat as much food as possible while staying within your calorie range. Okay? So you want to be eating as much food as possible so you're not going to bed hungry. And another goal which you should have if you're in a deficit is you want to maintain as much of your muscle as possible too. Okay? So a great way to be able to eat as much food as possible while staying within your range is to emphasize high density, low volume foods. What are high density, low volume foods? High density, low volume foods, these are foods you can eat a lot of that don't contain a lot of calories. And my God, did I learn a lot about high density, low volume foods last year when I was doing my photo shoot. So some examples would be, you need to have a source of protein and you need to have a source of fiber in particular. Protein and fiber, they're going to be your 2 best friends. So good source of protein that don't contain a lot of calories, egg whites. Wow, like these were a big game changer for me. 5 egg whites, less than 100 calories, and they are quite filling. Okay, so egg whites, lean meats like chicken breast, turkey. Cod is a big one. Cod is a great one. Super, super low in calories and really high protein. So real lean meats. Now, I would stay away, especially if you don't have like too many calories to play with red meat. And again, I love red meat, but maybe if you're in like a moderate calorie deficit and you're a few weeks out, red meat is a bit higher in calories than, we'll say, a chicken breast. You know, having a 200-gram steak and a 200-gram chicken fillet, there's probably 200 extra calories in the difference there. But definitely emphasize some good lean source of protein. And of course, Greek yogurt's another good one, protein shakes, a lot of different good source of protein there. But you want to keep them as complete as possible. And then secondly, fiber. So fiber, particularly from veggies. I mean, it's hard to overeat spinach or a kale or broccoli or a cauliflower. So get those good veggies into you. Every single meal, think if your plate is a clock. Half of that plate from 12 until 6, you want full of veggies. A quarter of the plate from 6 until 9, you want a good lean source of protein. And then the remainder, that's where you can add some of your carbs. But definitely, you don't want to be going to bed hungry. You want to be eating as much food as possible while staying within your limit. And emphasizing protein, emphasizing fiber, that is really, really beneficial. Okay, so on to our next point. Just to recap, we're in a moderate calorie deficit. We're strength training every single week. We're emphasizing our protein and fiber. Number 4, cardio. So there's a lot of different forms of cardio out there. But I think just a great low intensity, steady state way of upping your cardio is simply by walking more. Set yourself a step count. This is a game changer. It really is. I really underappreciated the power of just walking more. Until last year when I prepped for my photo shoots and I just emphasized getting maybe 12, 15,000 steps a day, at least over 10. And why is that important? On average, for every 1,000 steps you walk, it takes about 10 minutes on average. Now imagine you were to do your strength training 4 times a week. And that was all you did. So 4 hours of the week, 168 hours in the week. 4 of those hours, you were strength training. Compare that to 4 times a week in the gym. And on top of that, you're hitting 10K steps every single day. Now, 10,000 daily steps. I mean, I know that's just a kind of standard number that we throw out there, but 10,000 steps, that's about 1 hour and 40 minutes of additional activity outside of your workout. So those other 23 hours outside the gym are really important. So emphasize just walking more. Set yourself a step target. The only reason I wear a Fitbit is just to to time my workouts. I don't look at it for calories and to just monitor my steps. But I think it's a good way to it, even if you use your phone, it's important just that you're aware of your step count. And try, keep your steps relatively high. So something that I've started doing, and I find it really helpful, is after every single meal, I'll go for a 10-minute walk. So you eat 4 meals a day, that's 4 10-minute walks. That's about 4,000 steps. And then on top of that, you're going to be moving around anyways during the day. You're going to be moving around in the gym during your workout. You would not be long hitting that 10K mark. Okay, so first form of cardio, just low intensity, steady state walking. Good old walking. Now, there are other forms of cardio too. So HIIT cardio, of course, is a real common one. But a lot of people do it wrong. A lot of people do it wrong. If you don't know what HIIT stands for, high intensity interval training. High intensity. That's important. You cannot maintain a high intensity for longer on average than 12 seconds. And then over that 8 to 12 second mark, your intensity will drop. You look at a 100-meter sprint and a 200-meter sprint even. And the 200-meter sprint, they're not actually able to maintain the same speed that they built up in the first 100 meters. Because you can only really maintain true high intensity for an 8 to 12 second period. So here is a bad example, and then I'll give you a good example of HIIT. A bad example. We do burpees. 45 seconds on, 15 seconds off, 5 rounds. And this is meant to be high intensity interval training. Can you understand now that is not high intensity? Because there's no way you'll be able to maintain a high intensity for 45 seconds. And what that kind of training is, it's more so an example of low intensity, long duration, where you're going for 45 seconds, but your intensity, it's not at a 10 out of 10. Maybe it's at a 6 or a 7. True HIIT training, it requires probably a 5 or even a 6 to 1. And for higher level athletes, a even higher ratio of work to rest. So this might be something like, let's just say a 5 to 1 example. 10 seconds, max effort, followed by 50 seconds rest. So you have an assault bike. 10 seconds, you were going all out, giving it everything you've had. And then 50 seconds, you're just coasting. You do 10 rounds of that and you will be gassed if you do it right. Or battle ropes. Or with maybe med ball slams. Or with running, just simply sprinting. 10 seconds, you go all out. And 50 seconds, you walk, repeat. That is true HIIT training. Not doing 45 seconds on of burpees and 15 seconds rest repeating. That's more so circuit training or low intensity, long duration training. Now, in general, I don't recommend, especially if you're in a deficit, I don't recommend overdoing the HIIT training or the circuit training. And the reason being is because you'll be absolutely starving sometimes after one of those workouts. And as a result, you actually might start eating more calories than you've burned. Which is why, again, going back to the walking, you go for a 30-minute walk, you're not starving coming home after it because it's not that taxing. So I would say don't overdo the cardio if you're in a deficit. And, the same applies to running, to cycling, to rowing. Definitely incorporate them. But there's no need to overdo them, whereby as a result, then you're actually eating more than if you just kind of had a higher step count. Okay, so do incorporate cardio, but don't overdo it. And that's important. And then finally, just to recap now. So we're in a calorie deficit, 10 to 20%. Strength training 3 or 4 times a week, and maybe even more. We are emphasizing our protein and fiber. We're incorporating some cardio. And the last thing, the most important rule, consistency. Now, I know it doesn't sound too sexy, but consistency is the #1 most important rule. And for a lot of people, I feel it's getting out of the all or nothing mentality. I'm either all in with my diet or I'm off. I'm either a 10 out of 10 or I'm at a 0. There's no gray area there. Just think of it like this. Imagine you were driving your car and you were about to run out of fuel. And it takes €50 to fill the car up, to fill the tank up again. But you only had a €20 note on you. Do you just leave your car and let it break down there and not put €20 worth of fuel in because you're not able to fill it? Or do you just put in the €20, understand that, yes, it's not completely full, but it's going to get you a bit further? Exact same with consistency with your training. In other words, you plan on doing 4 workouts a week, but you can't do 4. Well, something is almost always better than nothing. So even if that's 1 workout, 2 workouts, 3 workouts, that's still better than doing nothing. Just like with your diet, it doesn't have to be 10 out of 10 perfect. You can eat chocolate. If you had a pizza, if you had a night out, it's all right. Just get back on track. Just get back on track. You're always one meal, one workout. You're one action away from being back on track. So stay consistent. And can you see how these are all interrelated? Because the first thing I said was a sustainable calorie deficit and giving yourself enough time. The more time you give yourself 12 or 16 weeks, you have much more flexibility. You can go out at the weekend. You can have a couple of drinks. You can eat out at your favorite restaurant. Whereas you only give yourself 2 weeks, you're going to be pretty miserable for those 2 weeks. I mean, I wouldn't be going out drinking too much alcohol or going having too many pieces of chocolate if you are only 2 weeks away. So give yourself enough time. That is really, really important. And that brings me to the end of today's episode. Okay, so these are the pre-vacation hacks to get your body beach ready. So number 1, just to recap one more time, moderate calorie deficit, strength training every single week, emphasizing protein and fiber to keep yourself fuller for longer. We do some cardio, okay? We get some cardio in and we stay consistent. And that is the approach. You incorporate these and you will see results. So before we go, just have a think about now. What are 1 to 3 things that you're going to take away from this? Maybe it's going to be, okay, I'm actually going to start tracking my calories now, even just for a few weeks. Or I'm going to start monitoring and assessing my lifts by tracking my workouts and actually keeping a training journal. Or maybe it is, you know what, I think I can increase my steps. I'm going to try out that tip of going for a 10-minute walk after every single meal. But implement some of these takeaways and don't just listen for the sake of listening. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear from you saying, I heard your podcast and I started doing this. And as a result, I'm seeing changes. I'm noticing changes. I'm feeling better. So take some form of action from this. Take some form of action. And there we go. That is all for this week's episode. So lifestyle lifters, I hope you found this beneficial. I hope you found this helpful. I really, really do. And if you did find it helpful, please share the show. A small fee that I'll ask for any of our listeners here. Please share the show. Okay, tag me on Instagram at Mac Lifestyle Fitness and share it on your stories. It would genuinely mean the world to me. Okay, so please share the show. And if you would like one-to-one coaching and have all of this laid out for you so you don't need to think about it. So everything there is clear and easy to understand and you can go about your busy work life. If you're working 40, 50 hours a week and you don't have time to be doing out your own program on top of it and you want to outsource it, I do offer one-to-one coaching. So you can hit me up on Instagram at Mac Lifestyle Fitness, or even check out my website and see what I offer, www.maclifestylefitness.com. But that's all for this week's episode. Thank you very much for listening. Please rate, please review. And until next week, lifestyle lifters, take care and have a great week.